Welcome back to the Trending Communicator. I'm your host, Dan Nessel. There was a time, not too long ago, when the corporate types I talked to about AI would tell me, we're all about AI transformation, we're making progress, everybody has access, and we're getting them trained. Which, in retrospect, meant we know we need to get on board, but we don't really know why, so we've created a restrictive policy. We've given employees low risk, low capability, high limitation tools, and an hour of DIY video training. So, AI, this transformational technology, is just like any other productivity software then? I mean, I got more training on Google Sheets than some of these folks get for AI tools. If there weren't so many consequences, I'd say this is one hell of a joke. But CEOs are making headcount decisions based on expected AI productivity gains. A significant number of employees are stuck with Copilot, while their counterparts and career competitors in companies, and upstarts like me, are experimenting and innovating with a wide variety of tools. Maybe not today, but sometime soon, lunches will be eaten and pipers will be paid. But hey, AI transformation. We love our transformational theater, don't we? Well, maybe there is a change a-coming, because the questions have changed. I'm hearing more people calling for an appraisal, a step back, a look at the why and the how of AI before pushing deeper into the what. Agencies, PR and marketing firms mostly, they seem to get it. Smart agency CEOs aren't implementing AI, they're reimagining what agencies actually do. They're questioning whether they need the same talent pipeline, the same structure, even the same business model. These aren't technology questions, they're existential ones. They are change management questions. Well, today's guest has been living these questions while orchestrating one of the industry's most successful transformation stories. She took the helm at G&S Integrated Business Communications, inherited a $28 million agency and expanded it to $33 million, acquiring Morgan Myers and forming the G&S Integrated Marketing Communications Group, all during our industry's AI identity crisis. Now, here's what makes her perspective unique. She spent 22 years building Cooper Cats from startup to acquisition, then navigated that integration from the inside. Now she's the one doing the acquiring. That's a masterclass in organizational evolution. She started at Burson Marsteller when Howard Burson still rode the elevator. She's a scholar practitioner with an MA in literature from NYU. She originally wanted to be a professor. She's a PR Week Global Power Book regular, a Vassar College trustee, an active media trainer who still works directly with clients. But those are just credentials. What matters is her ability to see what AI really means for human value in communications. And just a few weeks ago, she turned the tables, interviewed me on her great podcast, Building Brand Gravity, where we explored the attention economy and why earned attention is so critical for visibility. Well, today we're going to dig into something a little bit different. We're going to dig into what's really happening with AI adoption behind corporate doors, why GEO, generative engine optimization, might be eating SEO's lunch, and what this means for PR's talent pipeline. Making her return, her triumphant return to the Trending Communicator, the CEO of G&S Integrated Marketing Communications Group, host of Building Brand Gravity, and my friend, the brilliant Anne Green. Anne, how are you?
Oh my goodness, what an intro, Dan. Thank
told
you.
you.
I'm a friend of the pod. I'm glad to be back
Friend of the pod.
with you.
You are. You know, you join a few illustrious colleagues. Ethan's been on twice. Ethan McCarty.
I love Ethan.
You know, I've had Ethan
It's
on
a
a
good
couple
group.
times. I've had Ken Jacobs on a few times. I've had a few
Yes.
folks. Our returnees, Megan DeShula Noel, those kinds of folks. They're and it's good to have that. I think I would say community. I feel like it's a little performative when you say community these days, but it is kind of a community. It's a community, a small community of the people that I really love to talk to and that my audiences love to hear from. So I'm glad you're back, part of that community, and always a friend of me and the pod. So welcome.
And the community thing is real. It's interesting. We are in a space where there are some who are on the client side or in-house. There's some agency side. There's competition. People move between entities. Agencies are competitive. But I have to say, after 34 years now on the agency side, I find this sector really generous. I love the people I know who I've watched grow for many years. And all the names you mentioned, friends of the pod, are people I know and respect and have known in different ways. And so I'm really glad for that community right now, Dan, because it is a huge change happening and there's so much going on. It's not just the business models
Hmm.
of this sector, but it's all the different client sectors, it's the economy, it's the geopolitical thing, it's really the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a macro human change. It's one of those seismic times. It's not an easy time, to say the least. So to be able to have conversations like this or to reach out to others within different, the Venn diagram of our comms
Hmm.
community is really meaningful to me right now.
Yeah. It really is, I think, a life course in
Yeah.
don't burn any bridges, you know?
Yeah.
Although sometimes I do feel like a bridge burner here and there, but that seems to be in my head because then when I then reach out and talk to that person, sometimes months, sometimes years later, there's no issue. There's no
Yeah.
issue at all. People know, like it is. You make a principled stand about
Yeah.
something, or you have a POV. It's not thought leadership unless somebody can disagree. And I think that was Andy Crestodino who said that recently to me. But you have to kind of be firm in where you stand on. And I'm not on societal issues for sure, but I'm talking about PR and comms, about like what you think the direction is, what you think we
Yeah.
should be doing, and where we're at. And I've always liked reconnecting with you because you have such insights to share, and not to raise the bar even more on you for this show because the bar is
Be
always high when
careful.
you come on. But no, I'm really interested to hear what you're thinking about where we're at right now because, as I said in the monologue, because I can't call it intro, it was more of a monologue. There's a lot of difficulty right now in in corporate America, maybe global corporations, about what the heck they're supposed to be doing with AI. And in some cases, I've seen it like it kind of it's turned on itself. Not AI is not turned on itself, but teams and executives have sort of turned the corner on. Okay, this has been a flash in the pan, or like there was a lot of hype, and we need to slow it down. And I don't think it's going to give me what it's supposed to
Mm.
give us. And the promises were way over promised. And maybe there's some of that, but there's also a genuine technological revolution happening here with AI that I don't care how many people think was hype. It's real. It's changing everything. And it's just a matter of, I think, how you figure out how it works into your work, how it works into your operations, you know, rather than jump forward and say, okay, let's get everybody AI first. You need to understand where you're at and what use cases you need to kind of improve. And then you have to kind of envision once you have this thing, you don't know what's going to happen when you give everybody a little innovation engine and a PhD in their pocket. But once you have this thing, how much of a how much do your kind of guardrails become more like bouncy walls or like permeable where people can kind of go outside the lines a little bit? And how much do you think your business is going to change? Because it is going to change, so you have to be
Mhm.
prepared for that. Very different scenario than we ever have been in before, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was I was trying to collect my thoughts on where are we right now as I
Hmm.
prepared to have this conversation because I think the best way I can say it is so many things are true at one time, right? So let me give you my not hot take, but my 2 cents on this question of a bubble or hype.
Yep.
So and there are times when history is instructive and there's times when history is not instructive. But if I go back to the dot-com era, which I'm not saying there's a direct comparison, right? For the many listeners you have who lived through that, though,
Hmm.
and I've talked with people like Mark McLennan and others who's been in the industry a long time in the tech space. We used to compete, friendly competition with Cooper Katz and Schwartz. Now he's at C plus C, and we do the ethics work together in the PR Council. But when I talk to folks like that, the thing that's instructive to me is I remembered clearly during the dot-com era, massive change was happening. And this was right before the writing to web, the typepad WordPress revolution and social
Hmm.
media for that two-way comms. But the dot-com era was ushering in massive change, including relative to search. It's not just the e-com side, it's the search
Hmm.
side. But there was also a bubble, obviously. And where it's been helpful and instructive for me to really go back in time and ask myself what was happening back then and then bring it forward is I think where there's overhype and bubble is where you see very small companies or startups that are doing more discrete applications of AI. And by the way, amazing innovations coming out of that. I'm not
Yeah.
saying a single app or use tool is not, but where their valuations are just utter insanity. I mean, I remember before Burn Rate came out with, when that book came out, or the first article in Cranes and others that were talking about the burn rate of the dot-coms, being like, this is upside down land, like up is down, cats or dogs, what the hell's going on here? So where I feel bubbly right now is where you have these small kind of point solutions and the massive proliferation of them and the massive, and huge valuations. That feels like it's going to crash.
Yeah.
I think that the more seismic change is obvious. And I guess, just to not do too much of my own monologue or soliloquy, I think
Please.
My big take at this moment is so much is true at one time. In some ways, the tools are transforming things in big and small ways all over the place. In some ways, adoption is really fast and interesting and nimble and surprising to me in ways I'm not expecting. In some ways, a lot of companies are really advancing it. And then at the same time, there's a lot of it that's quite inert, not that useful. There's a lot of everything you said, which is sort of stalling out, not really understanding how to use the tools, or too restrictive. And there's a lot of being promised that isn't being delivered. And to me, and I've talked to you about this before, to me, the biggest thing is, from the upskilling side, this is a very complex people transformation moment. And we are really crap in this society at upskilling people. We're not good at it. And so to me, the beginning and end has continued to be, it's a theme. How do we each interrupt our own workflows in a positive way? Figure out what those killer apps are, meaning like that's the mobile language from back in the day, but what are the things that light you up and cause change? And then how do we figure out how to scale that throughout, whether it's top down, bottom up, peer to peer, various channels, and show the work, share with each other, share with us, share with our clients, share inside and outside. But I would say, Dan, it's all over the place right now. That's all I can say.
Accurate. I'd say it's accurate. There's a interesting post I read like almost just before we got on this recording today. My friend David Armano posted something. It was a share. Yep. And it was something about how employees are, who are adopting AI, and I don't recall what industry, or it was across industries, I'm not sure of it, that there is a proliferation of work slop, right? We've been talking about AI slop, or like just crappy AI content, and that's just, it's with us. We'll get past it or we won't. I think it presents a tremendous opportunity for people who write well and can put out excellent content. Let the slop continue. I don't care. But I care, but I don't care that much. I have to have confidence in what I think is good stuff. But I didn't think about it in terms of the workplace. It had like a lot of workers seem to be just now embracing AI on the kind of front side, and maybe they're executive teams and their ops people are saying, see, we're embracing AI. We're embracing AI. It's in there. But the quality of their work has been going down, and they're losing the respect of their colleagues because their colleagues want to have quality work to work with. And it's like the equivalent of having that person on the team who just basically phones it in every day, and, you got to carry them. They find themselves either correcting people's work too much, looking at stuff that's just like obviously low quality, and it's churn and burn. Like these AI users just kind of can create whatever they want to. And everybody knows this. You can just go to ChatGPT, create whatever you want, really, if it's written. And it got me thinking that, we've been talking about AI as a enhancer and a augmenter. It augments your skills, enhances your skills. But I forget who the comedian was or the movie. There was it just jumped out in my head. Somebody was talking about weed, how it intensifies your personality, man. I forget who it was. I forget what it was. Somebody out there will tell me. But like, that's there's comparing weed and alcohol. But point is, weed intensifies your personality. That's what AI is doing. It's intensifying the best and the worst parts of your work style and the way that and your competency. So you have people who are not so great. Well, guess what? AI is going to make them even worse. Even not so greater. And there could be a turnaround. You never know. But I wonder if it's going to result in a longer term kind of really separating the capable from the incapable, the wheat from the chaff.
So many good questions in there. And it goes back to that article The Atlantic had back in the days of search dominance, is Google making us stupid? Remember that headline? Boy, that was good. But
That's right.
It was really about the interplay between the human brain and technology. And by the way, we know the human brain is plastic. In the 1800s, I'll bring out my literature brain because my specialty was Edgar Allan Poe. He could read and write just huge amounts, just this sustained attention beyond anything. And his retention at that time, he being, one of any kind of person that considered them well-educated, the kind of retention of information one needed to have because the way that knowledge was passed and retained, right? So this is remapping us. So that's one piece, which is how do we not fall into the trap of television is making us stupid, search is making us stupid, social media is making us stupid. No one's going to write now because Twitter is 140 characters. Okay, so the language changes, the brain changes, the workflow changes. But what you're saying, I think, is really profound because it's not a given that AI augments us in a positive way. It's not a given that AI just makes it better. AI is its own thing. It's also an invention of humans. It's a very curious thing in the way that we talk about it and think about it. It has a magic to it in a way because of how it operates. That's a little bit beyond. I mean, we understand it, but even the smartest people who are engineering it, I was just listening to Trevor Noah interview Mustafa Suleiman, the new season of Trevor Noah's podcast, and he's a super brain. I mean, he's brilliant. And so it was a fantastic, both practical and philosophical, just came out like a week ago. I really encourage people to listen to it because it's talking about all the aspects of this, but there's a magic to it still. And I think what you're getting to, Dan, is that it takes a lot of intentionality and a lot of iteration and a lot of discussion and exploration and discovery and really, and that's why I think in some ways your assertion that maybe agencies are doing a little bit better here. We are by nature a more communal environment. We're a multi-generational workforce and we see ourselves as a cohort. We're all in different client service teams and expertise, but we understand our mission to serve clients and we understand the imperative. We have to figure out what is this good for, what is it not? And also what is each person good at and what are they not and where are their skills? So there's a natural conversation happening there. And I think for me, when I tease through some of this, I see this idea of interrupting a workflow. I see where it's hard and where it's easier. I see what seems like, wow, now that is something I want to dig into versus I can't make it give value to me here. I watch how my partners are using it. Steve Halsey, our chief growth officer, he is in a constant dialogue with ChatGPT. And as someone doing proposals and also branding and consulting, I can see how it's supercharging a lot of that thinking. I personally feel that generative AI, one of the least interesting things it does is write, because that's where, like, for example, the writing I do, I don't want to fool myself that humans are so freaking special, but the inertness of that writing today, maybe if I train it forever, it could write in my voice more. But it's been very interesting to kind of see this proof of your assertion, which is AI doesn't automatically augment our intelligence. We have to fight for it and we have to build it and we have to embrace it, but it is a journey.
Oh, 100%. I totally, I agree that the least interesting thing it does is write, but it's so funny that that's what everybody, that's what the biggest kind of use is for that, because it's the easiest use probably. You just,
it's the biggest magic trick
email.
in a way where it's like, oh my God, it suddenly wrote something like a Shakespearean sonnet. And I don't want to downplay the power of that because you and I live in a world where we are writing and communicating all the time. That is a very hard skill set for many people as communications professionals, as also trainers, as like a speech coach. I know how difficult that can be. And writing is not, the first skill set that some people have in other careers. I think what's been interesting though is to watch teams experiment in different ways. Like we have some folks, like we have people I consider builders of AI now within the agency. And we just brought one of our, younger digital team members at Morgan Myers into it have 50% AI role because it's so much the air he breathes. He's a natural teacher, a sharer, he's self-training. So he's building a lot of very quick, not just prompts or small pieces of agentic AI that are purpose-built and doing it very fast with others, making it, which is a great experimentation lab, using ChatGPT as well as Copilot, pushing their boundaries. But then we have another team that's built a deeper brand voice agent for a client. And what they've done is 7 or 8 rounds of deep iteration and testing across like 40 or 50 different types of writing, bylines, pitches, speeches, Q&As, briefings, and they keep testing and iterating. And now they've gotten to the point where like they basically said, damn, this thing is amazing. And now they want to talk to the client about it to say, we want to talk about what's a different way for us to work together on content because we've worked really hard to get this to a place in an enterprise setting. So I bring that up because that's where I see rubber hitting the road. That and GEO. But that's where I see rubber hitting the road in finding out where should we go fast and where should we go slow and test. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, partly because you're describing my work as well.
Yes.
I've gone deeper than any human should probably go into let's make this thing 1% better, 1% better. Getting that voice. Writing is such a personal thing, but corporate writing doesn't have to be. And thought leadership really needs to be solidly in somebody's voice and your POV, and it has to really express your ideas. You can't go around, ethically speaking, you shouldn't go around misrepresenting yourself in any way. But that's exactly what you need to do, I think, with whatever tools you're using, whatever AI you're using. It's that constant refining, iteration, moving closer, putting in these do's and don'ts, making sure, you know what? It's kind of like if somebody told me, years ago that you're in marketing and PR, someday, Daniel, you will need to understand formal logic and coding to a point. Like you don't have to learn the coding language, but you have to kind of learn some of the principles. And I would just knock it off. There's no way. Like I'm a word guy. Well, AI has not only transformed me or added those aspects to my kind of portfolio, I suppose, but it makes it fun for me to do it and challenging. And, I approach every piece of writing, like this huge challenge to get it closer to what the real thing is. And all along, what I'm doing is actually making it the real thing because I'm injecting ideas and directing it with the 25 years of wisdom and knowledge, if you want to call it that I have from executive comms and from corporate comms. Like, you can't discount that part. But you put it all together, and before you know it, you have like, okay, here's my content engine. Yeah, it's got 4 frameworks, 3 protocols. It has these instructions. You have to go do this and this. You prime the pump, and there's a whole thing. It's not go to ChatGPT and ask it to write like you. There's a whole infrastructure almost that you have to build in order to really do it right. But once it's done, then the creation possibilities are almost infinite. I hate saying that, but they're endless. Yeah.
That's a plasticity of our brains again. So what's interesting here is you're kind of saying, are the humans making the machine more human? Is the machine making the humans more machine? There's going to be a symbiosis here, maybe until we reach singularity. I don't know. But what you're reminding me of is, remember when Facebook first kind of opened the gate to let us oldsters into it? And I was in my 20s at the time, but remember the early days of Facebook, the way semantically that you would put an update in, it was like name is doing something.
Yeah.
Anne is on Dan's podcast. Anne is podcasting. Anne is doing this. I would catch myself at that time. It's not like I use Facebook all the time. I would catch myself thinking that way. Like my inner monologue is Anne is walking down the street. And when I realized that, I was like, holy shit. But now you're learning parameters and putting it into language. How do I interact with this thing that's ones and zeros, but has been ingesting and coding in a certain way that it can do this, magic prediction box. So it
Yeah.
changes the way you speak and think and how, and so that's changing you. And so, yes, I think this question, there's a lot of people struggle with authenticity, especially in the writing side
Hmm.
and the act of creation. I would say that probably on the agency side, where we're very focused on words, journalism, creation, creative people, our
Hmm.
digital colleagues, et cetera, are probably more hesitant in the beginning about AI because of some of those questions around,
Hmm.
well, what is the authentic voice? Now, there's some that are like, yoo-hoo, I get to just do this. But I
Yeah.
think overall, it's actually really instructive. And I'm thinking about this live time as we meet to think about we're changing each other. I say that loosely
Hmm.
because it's not a creature. I'm trying not to anthropomorphize it, which I'm failing at already. But it's changing us too. And that does give us more creativity, perhaps.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of there's a future that we don't know, but
Yeah.
I do know that if somebody said to me, you know, AI just is going to make you a worse writer, it's going to make you kind of, you're going to just forget how to use your original voice. I would just invite them to sit with me as I
Yeah.
sweat over an article, um, regardless of whether I get AI assistance or not, because I always call it AI assistance because AI is not writing it for me.
Hmm.
It may draft some of it, but I have it, the, the foundational work that I put in to create the engine, so to speak, is so rich with my IP and my understanding, my knowledge. So, yeah, it's being done by some kind of technological contrivance. But since when in the universe of our lifetime have we had, like, you know, one push access or just one click access to your entire body of work all at once? Never. You've never been able to do that before. You've never been able to say, this thing has everything I've ever produced or everything of import that I've ever produced. Like, and it will pull up the ideas that I would be searching for forever. But they're my ideas. They're my things. So I kind of wanted to drill a little bit more
Yeah.
into this a little bit because I think this is it connects to why organizations are failing with, I think, with this transformation, because they don't allow the room for the builders, like you say. They don't allow the
Hmm.
room for the innovators to dig deeper and deeper and then, suddenly come up with this either solution or a use case or something that is new, a new way of approaching things. Like you and I both know that what your team is doing, what I'm doing, I mean, executive communications will never be the same, assuming that they wisely choose to work with us, right? But there's so many implications to this. This is
Yeah.
one thing of a million trillion different things that can happen on a day-to-day basis in business, and you're not giving people the room to run. So the transformation that we seek, you said it earlier, that this is a complex people transformation, and we fall flat on this. And you know, A, I couldn't agree more, but B, I mean, what are companies going to do about this? Because there's it's interesting. There's this kind of loop or this pattern. I don't know, maybe just dawning on me. For when AI first came out, let's say November of 22, I think within days you're seeing people go, up, PR agencies fucked, gone. It's not, they're not going to be able to do, like, they're going to be replaced, or ad agencies, whatever. Um, I think the PR, comms, communications, and let's just say integrated marketing communications, because it should be all one lumpy thing
Yeah.
anyway, um, is probably in a better position to seize the opportunity with AI, but doesn't fit into the same box that traditional job descriptions might, or that,
Hmm.
that organizations might have room for. So they're going to increasingly go to agencies to help them with this stuff because they can't do it in-house yet, which bodes well for agencies. So it's like the agencies are well, new technology, agencies are done. Oh, wait a second. Agencies kind of get it more than we do. We need to work with the agencies. So it's kind
No,
of
we've
this
heard
thing,
this story before.
right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
tough.
it's tough. But then why are they failing? Why, is beyond that, they're not, if we're going to call it one thing, they're not empowering people, or people don't have the
Yeah.
freedom. What else is it that's really stopping this whole thing?
And I'm trying to interrogate myself of like, how much do I think that assertion is true? I think it's very true in many ways. And I think
Mhm.
obviously there's outliers. There's plenty of organizations that are probably kicking butt and doing
Yeah.
really creative stuff and seeing some change. But as I talk to some clients in various sectors and some very large entities, I think there's a few dynamics happening at once. And I have a lot of compassion and heart for it out there. So there's a lot that must be done, to your point, to iterate and explore and create time for experimentation and also self-training and learning.
Yeah.
Many groups, client, agency, whoever,
Mhm.
in-house, they're working hard to try to create trainings. They are trying to create enterprise tools. They're trying to create more freedom to operate. I really do think that that's
Yeah.
happening on the legal side and regulatory. They're really trying. But the fact is right now in our society, for many, many reasons that everyone listening will know, I observe that most people are doing more work than ever before, in white collar jobs. And that's
Yeah.
true in blue collar and other types of jobs too. It's just tight. And, this whole thing, I mean, Bill Gates, Mustafa Suleiman and Trevor were talking about, to evoke that again, how, Gates was saying years ago at the advent of Microsoft, oh, we're going to go down to just working a few hours a day. Obviously, Tim Ferriss had the 4-hour work week. I mean, this has been on and on and on. And you hear a lot of that with the AI utopianism.
Yeah.
But the lived reality is people are so overwhelmed. And now, as more cuts are made, because it really is a layoff rich environment, which is hard.
Hmm.
And with the tariffs and the geopolitical situation, it's just a wild, tough time. People are pressed. So then we're trying to, and this is the thing I've been talking to my own folks about and talking to other leaders about. We have this very much a conundrum as leaders in whatever place we're sitting in. We have workforces, I have people working for me who are amazing, all kinds of different people. I want them to get excited about what AI can do. I want them to be clear eyed about it. I want them to get engaged in learning and curiosity and upskilling themselves because we can't do it for anyone. We can help, but we can't just make someone suddenly,
That's right.
now I'm in it.
Hmm.
There's a lot of time, but they're so pressed for time and not just in client service. So it's overwhelming. And then in the meantime, they're in this like existential dread of an environment. I mean, every week feels like it's worse than the last week. Last week was bad. Next week, I'm trying not to be
That's right.
depressed about it, but it's a tough time where people are feeling that stress very, very deeply every time they look at a website or see a newspaper or a podcast.
Hmm.
So I think we're having this convergence of a lot of uncomfortable things. And then you're right. You said earlier, there's a thing happening now where it used to be blitz scaling. If you had a startup, the faster you grew the FTE, the team, the
Yeah.
more of a darling you were. That was the evidence of success. I think agencies, and I've said this, used to be, now we're 10 people, 50 people, 100 people. Like we counted our success in top line revenue in humans.
Hmm.
I think that everybody now is going through this reevaluation. Now, unfortunately, on the flip side, you have the startup community bragging about how few people they have or
Yeah.
how much layoffs they've done because of AI. And that's fine in the tech space and the startup space. But when that starts leaking into and infecting the general market, where you have many organizations and CEOs, and I'm not trying to throw rocks in glass houses because we did a small layoff early this year, but that's
Hmm.
meaningful. It has nothing to do with AI. It was really the marketplace. But
Yeah.
when you have a lot of people then using, well, it's AI, but the fact is they have people already overwhelmed and the AI is not going to do the job of a person. We don't have these perfect agents yet. Some folks do, but very few have it where I'm a human overseeing 5 agents and it's made me so productive and I'm so relaxed. That's not the reality most entities are living in.
Hmm.
Therefore, we have a super stressed workforce that doesn't have the space, nor do they have the psychological bandwidth to feel hopeful and excited and optimistic. Now, that sounds very grim. And it's not true for everyone, because I'm seeing more excitement light up among my own
Yeah.
people. But this is where we're at in this workforce moment. And
Right.
we have to be super focused on that, as whether we're solo practitioners or organizational leaders, to actually get people to this next space. Does this resonate with
It
you?
does.
I'm very passionate about this, as you can
It
tell.
very much does. And let me clarify something, because I
Yeah.
said that, agencies are, they get it
Yeah.
and they're in a great spot. Now people need agencies. That doesn't mean they need agencies in their current form.
Yeah.
It
I
just
agree.
means that the agencies have an important role to play and will continue to have a very important role. But
It's
just
the
like anything else,
counselors. Who are
it's
the counselors
who
with the
is,
kind of expertise that and the
yeah,
humanity to layer on top of the technological capabilities?
yeah. And that's one thing. And the other thing is this idea that people are able now um, to essentially scale without scaling, right? To have
Hmm.
this, they're crowing about having, oh, I have 5 agents. I manage 5 agents and I get everything done. I see how some people do this.
Yes.
When I say some people do this, we're talking about like almost nobody. Like
A
almost
very
nobody
small
can
group,
do this.
an elite
And that
group. Yeah.
exactly. And that small elite group, right, does not have the the I'd say layers and layers of accountability, ethical requirements, regulatory guidelines, anything, just name it, that a corporate person would have. And it doesn't, even in a small company, you would not trust a team of 5 AI agents to suddenly take over your back office. It just can't happen, because somebody has to be accountable. Because sadly enough, the reason somebody needs to be accountable is because somebody's got to be fired if something's wrong, right? You can't fire AI, but you can fire people. Very cynical way of looking at it. But as long as there's a person at the end of the thing to stamp it, say, yes, this is working, this is right, we can have confidence. If that person is not there, we societally are not ready to have confidence yet.
I've been
So,
thinking about
yeah,
this a lot, just to
yeah,
jump in, and my
sure.
apologies. I've been trying to ask myself, when does true agentic AI become more pervasive? I think that it will happen very slowly and then perhaps very quickly, and we'll see
Mm-hmm.
it through things like, and I do think it may come through the consumer's life, our lives as consumers, where the phone is already playing all kinds of roles. It's suggesting more. It's
Mm-hmm.
like low friction AI bubbling up. When the shopping bots, when those barriers come down and we see that pushing, and we
Mm-hmm.
see more of those types of things, the vacation booking, the shopping, the buying, the groceries, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, perhaps then we start to see it accelerate into a corporate environment, just like
Mm-hmm.
person to person, P2P payments,
Yeah.
peer to peer, although that was rough, came faster in some ways through players
Mm-hmm.
like PayPal and others than B2B,
Yeah.
electronic payments. Now I'm really dating myself when I say
Well,
that, but it's an
I'm
interesting question.
of
Yeah.
the same dating. I think, yeah, I don't think the trust in the agents is going to be deep enough for a very, very
Not yet.
long time
Yeah.
for it to be truly transformative and meaningful. Now, I
Mm.
mean, book me a trip. Why not? Of course.
Yeah,
And if I
yeah.
could guarantee the safety of my payments and my credit cards and stuff, yeah, by all means. Maybe, this is
Yeah.
where blockchain and crypto probably come in a little bit, but still, you
Mm.
know, you can do a lot of this. I mean, like, I don't see a point yet where there's an agentic solution that is going to, really cause uh, staffing disruption at a large scale yet, right?
It's a
Like,
good
not,
question.
but I
Yeah.
agree that it could happen eventually. Um, but regardless, you have people creating these agents. I often tell folks that, my startup, my consultancy, I have me and I have Claude, and Claude is my business buddy. And Claude has multiple projects within Claude that help me figure things out. And
Hmm.
then I have a bunch of different apps that I use. But at the end of the day, if I work out a strategy or a product or a service with Claude, I got to take it away and just look at it myself. I have to figure things out
Yeah.
by measuring it against what I know. If I get legal advice from Perplexity, which I'm sure that so many people do,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Hey, if it's hey, here's how you write a statement of work, fine. Here's an NDA, here's a contract that's going to guarantee your IP. Here's okay, you're signing your life away. No. Yeah, I need a lawyer. I need somebody who's gonna take responsibility and
This
put
reminds
themselves on the
me
line.
of that era of the early days of e-commerce and
Mm-hmm.
everything going online and all the prognostications about different industries getting decimated, right? And then what
Yeah.
happened is what we saw, and this is where sometimes it's instructive to look back, sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But what we saw was over time, it became clear where humans in the loop were valuable and helpful. It has not, e-commerce and all the tools, including this, has not totally disintermediated all travel agents, most, but not all. It
Mm-hmm.
hasn't disintermediated all brokerage and financial advisors. It has not disintermediated, although there's some that will
Mm-hmm.
use Betterment, all kinds of tools, wonderful tools, right? It has not disintermediated, all consultants, all the things. So, and I think that you talked earlier about sort of AI slop. There's the consumer side,
Mm-hmm.
like the Italian brain rot and all the other crazy stuff that's coming, which makes me laugh. It's so ridiculous. But, and how, even games like Roblox are being like infected by brain rot stuff and
Mm-hmm.
AI stuff. But, I do think these things will evolve and we'll start to
Mm-hmm.
see where is it that bringing it in feels natural and where does the human need to be in the loop and where do we
Yeah.
make that decision on a business side, where do we make that on the consumer side?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be somewhere in the middle on various of these things, and I'm trying to feel out the edges of it. And the same thing with workforce impact.
Mm-hmm.
I try to take in all the prognosticating because we've heard a lot of it before. I
Yep.
always figure it's somewhere in the middle. And we're doing a town hall tomorrow for my staff, and I'm talking about some of this change. And I'm saying, I assume 2, 5, and 10 years from now, there'll be a lot of stuff that's really recognizable. And then I'm sure there'll be other stuff that won't be.
Yeah.
But where it will sit and to what degree, that's the really hard part right now.
Yeah. And I'm glad you went there because that was exactly where I was trying to go here to this whole idea of what happens to talent. Because
Yes.
as you're speaking, like this is a common conversation. There will be displacement. What kind of displacement? We don't know what kind of displacement, but there will be displacement. But I think part of the conversation is often left out. And that part of the conversation is there's always been displacement.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been change. Maybe people worry about the scale here, but with the rate of change things are going, I don't know if it's going to be nearly as big a scale as, like, let's say the financial meltdown of 2007 and 8. We don't know. We simply don't know.
Yeah.
It could be 2 years from now. I could be eating my lunch, or I said that 4 times today. I could be eating crow, is what I want to say.
Eating your words.
Eating my words. What I kind of think is like there's 2 things that we need to remember. First, displacement is not a zero-sum game, or nothing's a zero-sum game, really, because as industries change, other new ones are created. The reason that all of the changes that happened to e-commerce, for example, or where there were so many people displaced, is because we had a much, much smaller economy at the time. We had a much, much smaller growth. You can say what you will about consumerism and about capitalism, whatever. But the fact is, there's a lot more employment, a lot more jobs, a lot more people working than there were. And there's a lot of different kinds of jobs than there ever were before, especially in the knowledge space and knowledge workers. So we don't know. That's I suspect that similar things are going to happen. It might go backwards before it goes forwards, but eventually, call me a optimist. I think it's going to go forward, and there will be completely new categories that we don't even what I look at what I'm doing right now. And somebody said to me, "You're not in comms anymore." I'm like, well, of course I'm in comms, but I'm in other things. I'm in a new thing. I'm making my thing. So who cares what category it is? I'm just sort of making my way. Everybody has the capability to do this now with AI, but it's going to even change even more. So we don't know where that's going. The second thing is that that people make predictions based on linear knowledge, like what's happened before. They don't think about, and it's hard, it's hard to be predictive about anything, but they're so adamant that, well, this is the way things change and this is the trajectory. And if we see this happening, then we're going to see this disaster and this disaster. You just don't know, right? There's a probability. Be honest about the probabilities, but you simply don't know. I don't think anybody would have predicted half the things that people do these days. So, the variety, the kind of unknowing, the some people might say chaos, but this whole like somewhat undefinable future must make it extremely difficult for CEOs like you, Ann, who are trying to map out your talent strategy for figuring out what the future looks like, and sometimes taking a few things on faith when you hire somebody, that they have the right set of whatever it is that makes them special to the future. And I guess my first big question here in this kind of talent zone is, like, can we be hiring for the same skills anymore? Like, what are the things that we should be hiring for? And does it make sense to have that, career track? And let's just talk specifically about comms, marketing, communications, right? Does it make sense to have that career track the same way we always have?
I want to put a pin in that for 1 second to talk about the bigger workforce prognostication, which is, you've got Dario and Anthropic just talking about massive white collar workforce loss. And you've got Sam Altman at, I'm going to call him first name, Sam at OpenAI, like they're my good friends. You have Sam at OpenAI saying it's not going to be that bad, and Mustafa is probably in the middle. But I think for me, my first big thing is, I think there's a lot of workforce change and displacement coming, but I would also put on the list climate change, and I would put geopolitical issues, and I would put the way the US is changing right now in the business environment has made it very hard to operate. Now, this administration may be temporary, but, or this may be long lasting change. We don't know. But I would say that combined with AI and the way technology changes, I do think we're in for some seismic shifts. I'm worried about mass workforce displacement from a societal level, because that creates a ton of instability, right? And
for sure.
We saw what happened with the long tail of globalization and manufacturing and outsourcing and stuff. And that's been, those chickens are hanging around being like, we're roosting. Do you see us? Remember us from past? Okay. So when it comes to, so you're right, as a CEO and as a partner in a business and someone in this industry where I've been at, when I was at Burson Marsteller, it was the largest agency in the world, largest office at the time. Now it's dwarfed. That would have been dwarfed by others, but fine. Then a startup up to, a nice, smaller, entity, and now kind of a comfortable mid-size that's still independent, multiple agencies. I wonder every day about the workforce implications. And I think what's very interesting is right now, I'm not seeing, and I just answered this for either a PR Council survey or maybe Davis and Gilbert, I'm not seeing a lot of immediate changes in the hiring yet. And I think what's most interesting, because I've been really paying attention to this, like I think it was almost 2 years ago or so when I was talking about AI, I was like, if we're not careful, if we keep talking about entry levels, we're going to end up with no pipeline.
That's
like
right.
where is our future coming from? So what's been interesting to me is where this conversation has kind of rolled around into different levels. So first there was discussion about, entry levels are going to be really screwed and we're not going to need them. Okay. Then it moved on to, I think senior people are in trouble. I think, they're the ones, right? And they're highest paid and all that. Now it's moved on to, I think it's the mid-levels. They're the ones that are entrenched, but are they going to be able to upskill? And the younger people are going to come in more AI native over time. Although a lot of college students have very different feelings. Some are like, damn the torpedoes, let's go. Others like, we're not using it that much at school. Like we have issues with it environmentally, bias, ethics, authenticity. Like my summer intern, she was like at school, in the liberal arts context, we're a little bit like, she was glad to see it being used in a business context with a more balanced thing. So, and I do think a lot of senior people are just being cut loose in general. I think Gen X is really getting it right now.
Oh yeah.
Because of just shrinking back. And that's going to be really hard. So where do we net out? I don't know. I'm trying to feel it out still. But one thing, here's what I would say. Here's where my lens is very clear, Dan.
Mhm.
You said earlier, agencies need to look at their business model. I 100% agree. How are
Mhm.
we staffing? What do clients need? Agility and nimbleness, flexibility of mindset, growth mindset is my big thing.
Yep.
The idea of, yes, we can, let's try. I absolutely feel that we need to interrogate how many people do we need inside our house as FTEs and where do we need to partner? Because there are perennial agency issues like underutilization of certain groups at certain
Yep.
times that we can't hide from because our margins are tighter because clients are under more pressure.
Mhm.
Less AORs, more project work, more nimbleness, and more
Yeah.
changes. Clients will be going along with a business plan and something drops out of the sky. So I think for me, it's really about right now, what is the structure for success? Who do we need as FTEs and
Mm.
what does that look like in the future? How do we partner even more smartly? And then what does it mean to be smart and nimble? And the last thing I will say is I'm all about showing our work when it comes to AI, which is
Yeah.
be really open with the clients to say, wow, we're using it in this way. This is what we're
Mhm.
seeing. This is what we're going to bring to you. We're going to be able to bring more value before procurement has that conversation for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. I mean, I'm always behind the idea of transparency for sure.
Oh,
And I know that
yes.
since you're on the ethics council, I should say that, I'm not
Yeah.
being performative. If you read any of my
No.
pieces, I'm always about like, this is how I
Oh,
did
yeah.
this,
Absolutely.
Um, but it's interesting little sidebar. There was a report the other day from academia that said that people who are transparent about using AI are less trusted than
Yeah.
their colleagues. I do not
Very
believe
funny.
this.
I don't
Um,
know if I do either. I think there's a
uh,
lot of weird research out there right
I,
now. And I don't doubt it. It's just, I get where it's coming from, but there's so
I
much happening here.
I think it's very strictly in academia. For anybody out
Could
there
be.
who's seeing this come around, I think it's strictly
Could
that.
be.
And I can see that. I can see that, academics who've spent all their time researching and doing so much writing, and suddenly AI can pump out an abstract in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You
And
want to
I
be careful, but
agree. What I
Mhm.
observe at our agency is when people are really leaning into, because we have this AI enablement team, so it's
Mhm.
cross functional across age, and we share. Last year was about exploration. This year's more about enablement. But when people share, even across, to be like, "Ooh, I'm using it for this way. I'm using it for
Mhm.
analysis, or I did idea generation, then I took it here." The trust factor goes way up
Way up,
versus
way up.
suspecting something, and especially if it's a manager
Oh,
managee relationship where there's already a hierarchy.
mhm.
And one thing I laugh about people in comms is as they get older, everyone becomes such a hard ass. They're like, when I was your day,
Exactly.
we worked so hard
Wait,
and I
wait,
put my head
clippings.
down. And I'm like, it's a life stage thing, but there's a
Yeah.
high bar of expectation of work. And if you're wondering if
Mhm.
someone's using it and not telling you, I agree. That's when the trust goes down more.
You can usually tell. You can usually
Yeah.
tell because somebody who's using it and not telling you does not have the confidence of knowledge and
Yeah.
wisdom to back
Behind
up
it.
their work. And if you have the
Yeah.
confidence and knowledge to do that, you're taking time. I mean,
Yeah.
like I write things or create things a whole lot faster than I did before, but I write more.
Mhm.
So I'm still using more time than I did before for the purpose of creation. Um, changes my job, changes the way I kind of look at things. But going back to what you're saying there, there's so the transparency is very important, but the the idea that agencies need to business models are changing, et cetera. This is kind of
Mhm.
everywhere across the boards. Um, the pipeline itself, you mentioned college students coming in,
Mhm.
and they haven't been using it that much. I have Gen Z daughters. They don't really use AI almost at all, like
And
hardly at
some
all.
do, so it's kind
Mhm.
but I think it will increase. I think it'll be a
For
hockey
sure.
stick going up. But right now, it's not. We can't assume that just because they're
Yeah.
coming out of college that they're steeped.
What what I would what I would venture to guess at this point, because we don't know,
Mhm.
what I'd venture to guess at this point is that you you the people coming in, um, the so-called entry level, they're they're not going to be able to just say, yeah, I'm going to get into this LLM, Claude, ChatGPT, whatever it is, give me Gemini, right? And I am going to be creating or pumping out work at the same level as a VP of whatever, or as a senior
Mm.
account executive. It's just not going to happen. And the expectation that they can do that is is completely off base. Can they be immediately trusted to draft basic documents? For sure. But you have to, it's just drafting. It's just
And
drafting.
it's still training.
And
That's
still
the other
training.
thing. It's still training and
Right?
it's still engagement with
Yeah.
each level to give that's what's missing when you're younger is context.
Context,
The
right?
context that comes from experience is missing.
Exactly. And
And
that's,
AI
yeah,
doesn't just suddenly apply that because AI is still evolving itself.
that is exactly right. The context is so critical here. So when somebody
Mm-hmm.
comes out of college and you give them AI, it's like suddenly that you think that they can, it's different than any other, I didn't even call it a software technology anymore. It's like, it's just this, it's AI is AI. You don't use it the same way. You don't think about it the same way. You don't
Mm-hmm.
approach it the same way. You don't even know what you can do with it, frankly. But when you get it in your hands and you understand that this is something that that you have to have a particular style of communication with in order to get the results that you want, right? The results are going to differ person to person, and the distances to which you will go in that iteration and that interrogation, how you
Mm-hmm.
construct your queries and your prompts, that comes with a little bit of experience. But you're not going to know any of that out of college. The people coming out of college have to be exposed to the business context, and
Mm-hmm.
then everything changes, because that's where you start to see, with time and with a lot of curiosity, oh, wait, I can connect that piece with this piece. How would I do that? Maybe if I asked this, no, that didn't work. Maybe I asked this. Oh, you know what? I'm going to try this. And you just keep going at it. So this experimentation, this culture of curiosity, of experimentation, of growth mindset, right? All of that has to be, I'd say, like, either you have to have a propensity towards that, or I don't know how it can be taught, but you have to pick that up, I think, to succeed as a young junior employee now. I don't know if companies are recognizing that those are the things that are needed to succeed.
Yeah, the curiosity piece, it's so funny. I was with a number of leaders and they're going around and saying sort of what are they looking for?
Mm-hmm.
A number of folks, heads of, CEOs or senior leaders within large holding companies of the integrated marketing communications firms. And the idea of intellectual curiosity, like enthusiasm, real curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm from a liberal arts background. Any kind of educational background or even limited educational formal background can be amazing. Like I really honor many different pathways, but I do think that idea of the liberal arts, which looks at broad education, connecting the dots, seeing patterns, is a great preparation for this world. But
For
the
sure.
one thing I'll say about younger people, and I really hope that our industry does not cut off its nose despite its face, right,
Mm-hmm.
with our pipeline, is that there is, especially at this moment, a beauty of the beginner's mind. That
Yeah.
person who's coming in with curiosity and freshness, who also, the beautiful thing again about multi-generational workforce is the younger folks will always be, even if they're not like, there was this idea, oh, they're social media natives. It took a few years.
Yeah.
They're AI natives. It took a few years, right? And meanwhile, older generations were steeping themselves too. But they've grown up with a different set of technology in a different world than I did
Yeah.
at 54, being born in 71. Certain things will be more obvious to them off the
We're
bat,
the
even if
same.
it's not AI
Yeah.
related. Yeah, we're the same. And so I think that idea of the beginner's mind of someone who's very bright,
Mm-hmm.
really curious, excited to start, not sort of caught up in, well, I have to do a certain thing and I can't do the grunt work or whatever, which is
Mm-hmm.
always the thing we wrestle
For
with
sure.
in professional services because we grow by doing. And I do think there will be new types of entry level work where we can show folks how, hey, you're still going to be doing this monitoring, but agentic AI can help there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can learn to prompt this. Or, we're doing a very high level consulting project right now around reputation, where we said to the client from the beginning, this will be a mix of human and AI analysis.
Yeah.
And so it's been really interesting to watch one of our younger employees playing with these executive level transcripts in a
Mm-hmm.
protected environment, putting them through prompting, exploring, seeing what
Yeah.
does it come out to try while I'm also doing a paper cut, literally paper and
Mm-hmm.
pen to pull out what I see are the insights. And then we're going to compare them. And it's a
Yeah.
really interesting iterative process. So I think our younger employees are a superpower if we're collaborating with them in the way we need to be collaborating throughout our organizations to
Mhm.
find out how does this actually augment us?
Yeah.
Back to that core question again.
And what is going to be necessary,
Yeah.
and what as this AI human mix,
Mhm.
I could see us having, bringing people in and training them by reverse prompting. Okay, here's your
Sure.
here's the result. Tell me what
Yeah.
your prompts are going to be to get to this result. Like, it's a training program. You want to give, you need to give people room, just like you give people room to experiment. You're going to need people give people room, new people more room to train in different ways and be very creative about it. I don't
And
know what
by
the
the
answer
way,
is, Anne, but yeah.
one
Mhm.
other quick thing I wanted to mention, because I think this is really important. As we have more virtual engagement, hybrid
Mhm.
working, more AI engagement, one of the other things, it's not even a counterbalance, it's just the yin and the yang, or it's the both and, is
Mhm.
I, as an organizational leader, is working to release more capital to bring people together in person more. We're very
Yeah.
distributed. And so that's also where the humanity comes through, the
Mhm.
learning, the peer-to-peer exchange, the curiosity, the joy
Yeah.
and the passion for our work, because most people who come into this world, not everybody, some of our teams are coders or others who really
Yeah.
love having a smaller social group. They don't need to be with people all the time. They're designing and creating,
Mhm.
they're getting their energy in different ways. But when we can take the technological world and the virtual world and then pair it with that rich human experience, that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited.
I think that in human, the in person.
In human.
Oh boy, it always happens here. The in person
Yeah.
experience that's purely human
Yeah.
cannot be replaced. That's not
And
a call
shouldn't
for,
be.
it shouldn't
Yeah.
be. And that's
Yeah.
not a call for, like, that doesn't mean office hours or anything like this. Whatever works
No,
for your
no, I
company works for
agree.
your company.
I
I
agree.
mean, events, conferences, offsites, getting together, being
Yeah.
social if you need to be social. Totally important. And that will continue to be our advantage
Mhm.
as humans, on humans, as humans to, you know, when we put our brains together, when we sit around and sit around, when we're in
Yeah.
a collaborative, creative environment, I don't think that you're going to get anything close to the results that you would if you're sitting with Claude. No, all due respect to Claude, because I'm
Don't
sure
make
that
Claude
somewhere is listening,
mad.
will not make Claude mad. I love working with Claude, and I like brainstorming with Claude. I like brainstorming with people in a room better. And then I'll take that back to Claude. Say, hey, Claude, see what people can do. What are you
Yeah.
going to make of this? And then Claude help me know what to make of it. But it's just an interesting dynamic. Anyway, we are definitely heading to this very strange and mixed up future. I'm sure,
Yeah.
and with leaders like you at the helm, and I mean, you have.
Well,
I
thank you.
think you have the best interest of the kids, let's say, at heart. But I mean, everybody's best interest at heart for your organization, and you're going to do what's
Trying,
best for your clients.
I think
Mhm.
this is a time where we have to be open to many things being true at once, and we have to feel through the edges, and we have to
Mhm.
keep allowing ourselves to learn. And I love to learn, and I love to learn in all kinds of ways. So that's a good thing right now, because that's the energy we need.
I think that's why we get along. I mean, we'll get along for a lot of reasons,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, just the thirst for learning and just sort of
Hmm.
understanding what's going on around us. I always learn something when I'm talking to you, Anne, and today was no different. I've got some
Same.
notes. Um, we didn't even get to GEO. Boy, oh boy. Something that we need to talk about another time, but
Yep.
what is happening with GEO? Let's put a pin in that one.
Yep.
And I will say though that I have a lot to process from this, but I am I'm so grateful you were on. Is there any final words that you want to say to our listeners before we head out?
I think just remembering on a human level how overwhelming this moment of change is, and that there's a lot of heavy
Mm-hmm.
stuff in the world beyond that, and that
Mm-hmm.
our business selves and what we're trying to achieve there and the pressure to achieve is all tied up in it. So we've got to give ourselves a break. We got to give ourselves some grace. I think the world needs a lot more kindness, and that includes in the workplace and how we care for one another and give each other some grace and space and positive intent. because to get through times like this is really hard. And that includes the AI of it all. So my big thing is for myself, first and foremost, is how do I find that gentleness? And my big mantra the last year or so is hold less tightly, unclench the hands and open up the palms. So that's the last thing I'd offer folks. Hold less tightly.
Hold less tightly.
Yeah.
Hold less tightly, unclench. I think that's brilliant. It's up there with touch grass. I think we need to do this. We do all this stuff. Well, everybody, that's Anne Green. I mean, I don't have to tell you that she's going to come back again, even though she doesn't know it. So, she'll be a three-peater at some point. You can find Anne on the web at gscommunications.com and also on LinkedIn. And it's Anne with an E and Green with no E. But her name will be spelled properly in the episode title and graphic, as y'all know. And look for Building Brand Gravity on YouTube, and I guess wherever there are podcasts available. It's just YouTube.
You get your
wherever you get
podcasts.
podcasts.
You can get it just in your ears. You can watch it, whatever you want. I like to listen to podcasts. That's my jam. So
I do
whatever
too.
People want to do.
I do too, but I'm doing this video stuff now because apparently some people like to watch.
That's fine.
Who knew?
Check us out.
But I really, I loved being on Building Brand Gravity. I think, it's a, if I do say so myself, it's right up there with the trending communicator as great conversations go. And, no, I do appreciate the opportunity. And, everybody out there, again, check out Anne on LinkedIn and at gscommunications.com. And thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Bye, Jen.